Hi all, I'm Amber and today I'm going to share with you what I've read in the past week. This week I tried to read 6 books and not one of them was much of a success. Sadly, this whole month has been a frustration when it comes to reading, and I just kind of find myself getting really pissed off about it. But either way, let's just begin with the first 2 books that I do not have with me. First one being Cinder by Marissa Meyer. This book is another very huge example of why I do not really care for YA anymore. The descriptions are so vague that I can barely comprehend what the world is, what the people look like, and I just feel like the world is undeveloped, the writing style is way too simplistic, and this author does not seem to realize that young adults can handle a complex story with a complexly written book. They can handle it, and I just feel like authors who write YA seem to not really know 14 to 18-year-olds anymore. They seem to think that they all read children books, and the average young adult, from what I've seen, are reading adult as much or even more than they're reading YA. They underestimate the abilities of younger readers. Like, they can't handle complexly written books. There's so much frustration in that. I don't know what to say. It's just so hard to try to describe why I feel so frustrated about this. And then concerning this book, what really made it all frustrating is because the premise was so interesting to me, which is why I wanted to pick this book up for quite some time. Is the premise of it was so intriguing, and I really liked it, and to have it written in this way, it was just a huge frustration. So in the end, I had to give it 2 stars. The next book had the similar frustration with me, but a little bit on the higher level, because the book is The Arrival by Melissa Mars, who is a YA author, but this book was supposed to be adult fiction. So this is a Western with sci-fi elements. I didn't really get that from this book, and a lot of it had to do with the fact that this isn't a Western sci-fi adventure story about how people come into this world and how one person's arrival makes them have to stand up finally to the bad guy. No, this is a Western and sci-fi framework with a Harlequin romance as the meat for the story. I just was really pissed off by that, because that's not what I came in for. I don't mind romance, but from what the synopsis sounds, it shouldn't have been the main event, and that's not what I was looking forward to reading about either. Especially when she writes sex scenes, but she never goes far enough to make them actual sex scenes, and it's like, you either write a sex scene or don't write a sex scene. Like, she just didn't seem to make up her mind. And I could tell that she was comfortable because she's mainly a YA author, and I can understand that. But you kind of have to make up your mind. So that was a huge frustration. The writing very much was YA. I wanted to read an adult novel. I didn't get it. It was just another frustration that added upon my frustration from Cinder. So in the end, I give it 2 stars. That's just maybe why the rest of the week has been kind of all over the place. But either way, it is what it is. I read Matilda by Roald Dahl. Or I sort of read it. I kind of skimmed through the last part of the book. I chose to read this because I had watched the film and I just wanted to see what the original story was like. And I could have felt like it was pointless for me to read it because the film was very close to what the book was like. So it almost felt like a repeat, but it was interesting to read it nevertheless, because of the fact that it opened my eyes to some of the issues. I feel like Roald Dahl does not like kids. I think it's weird because from what I remember, or what I think I remember, is that he wrote these stories for his kids. I'm not sure if I'm correct about that. But either way, just from some of the things that he said at the beginning of the story, and then just how over the top he goes with the treatments of these kids, it's just kind of like, is he going too far, and does he really not like kids? Because it seems like it. It's all very interesting, these issues that I brought up. I think I gave it a 3-star rating, but in the end I'm not really sure if I can give it much of a rating at all, because I'm just kind of like, I don't know what to think about it situation here. So I picked up Getting In by Karen Stambender. This was meant to be a reread, and I quickly realized that I don't have any interest in this. I also picked up Jonathan Stranger's Neural by Susanna Clark. I didn't get far into this before I gave up on it. What really put me off of this book, I think, is the footnotes, which made the author seem very pretentious. I felt that they were pointless, unnecessary to the story, or that they could easily have been put into the actual story itself. It was just really frustrating because it made me feel like I was reading a history textbook, and that's definitely not what I feel like you're supposed to be getting from an epic fantasy. And I thought this was supposed to be epic fantasy, and instead I got this really dry textbook feel reading going on here, and so it was really frustrating. I also feel like I was influenced by other reviewers, because I did kind of go about reading reviews online, but you know, I might try this at a later date. I don't know. I just kind of found the whole thing frustrating and maybe a bit too long. So we'll see. The last book that I tried to read is The Thousand Autumns of Jacob Daysoad by David Mitchell. I don't know what exactly it was. This is the second time that I've tried to read this, but in both of these attempts, I just did not like it. I found it absolutely boring and just not at all what I was expecting. I don't really know what it was about this book that got to me. I think mainly just because I didn't like Jacob at all, and I don't understand that either because he's not like a bad guy or anything. But I just found it all kind of frustrating for me to read. So I'm not gonna give it another attempt again, even though I kind of felt like I didn't give it much of a good try. I didn't have interest at all in the story. Really frustrating because I loved Cloud Atlas by him, and it does make me kind of worried if I'm gonna like Cloud Atlas the second time round. Now I'm gonna share with you the books that I plan to read in the month of November. This is kind of a loose TBR because, as you may have noticed, I'm reading library books again, so I don't have the library books that I plan to be reading yet, but they will be coming around at some point, so things in my TBR will be moved and shifted as I go along. But either way, this is what it looks like for now. The book that I'm currently reading is Life After Life by Kate Atkinson. It'll be very interesting to see where this is going. I'm only about 50 pages in, and so far I'm just getting into like her family life as a child right now. I'm really liking the story and the characters, but I do feel like the writing is a bit on the simplistic side. I don't really like I really would have liked a little bit more descriptives. It's kind of vague, but it's not as vague as I would be getting if I was reading a YA novel. I feel like there is something really beautiful about her writing. It's just I kind of am a little bit frustrated with the writing style, with the simplicity, but that could be just me being affected by the fact that I've been struggling with YA novels of late. So I am determined to keep on with this. I'm enjoying it so far, so we shall see what happens in the next week. Then I will be trying to read My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Blucoe. This is a reread for me. I've read this book 1,000 bajillion times, and I just love it each time. So I'm definitely looking forward to picking this up again. Next, I will be picking up Octavia E. Butler's Lilith's Brood. This is her trilogy, Dawn, Adulthood Rights, and Amajo, all in one book. Sounds very intriguing, and I've heard a lot of good things about Butler, so I'm definitely looking forward to finally picking up one of her books. I will also be trying to reread The Time Traveler's Wife by Audrey Neffenegger. This is another book that I've read so many times because I absolutely love. So beautiful. It's just one of my absolute favorites. Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. This is a book that I've been wanting to read for quite some time. I've had this book on my shelves for at least 2 years, so I think it's about time that I did this one up. Hopefully I will be able to get to this month. Surprisingly enough, I will be rereading Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. As you may remember from earlier in this video, I talked about the book that he wrote after this and how I was worried about if I was going to like this or not in the second time round. So this is going to be proof of one or the other. The last book that I'm hoping that I'll be able to get to this month is The Once and Future King by T.H. White. And I'm absolutely looking forward to this, especially because I've been trying to find a really good retelling of Arthur for such a long time, and I'm hoping that this will fulfill my desire and the hopes of finding a good one, because I just can't seem to find any. So, crossing my fingers. That is what I've read and what I will be trying to read in the next month. Thank you all so much for watching, and keep smiling.